Good afternoon, and welcome to Darlington if you're from out of town, and for those of you that live in town, welcome anyway. We hope that this beautiful day has brought a lot of people out, and I believe it has. My name is Denny Pratt. I serve as the president of the library board, and will serve as your MC this afternoon. We especially welcome the Johnsons and their family on behalf of the City Council of Darlington and the library board. We've all been involved in this beautiful building, and we're certainly happy that all of you can be here today to celebrate with the Johnsons and everyone in our community with this beautiful building that we're going to be showing off here this afternoon. If you've not seen the building, you will be very much impressed. There's a lot of input from a lot of people, and we've come up with a very, very unique building. I believe probably the neatest library in southwestern Wisconsin, and what state of Wisconsin, what the heck. Without further ado, I would ask that all of you please stand as we ask the Men's Glee Club from Darlington High School under the direction of Todd Richmond to give us the national anthem. Thank you very much, men. We appreciate you taking this time this afternoon. Many of the young men in our choir here today or in our glee club are also involved in a school play, which they're rehearsing this afternoon, so some of them might have some strange makeup on, you never know. Next, I call upon pastor of Emmanuel UCC Church, Bill Kapp, for an invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we give you thanks for this beautiful day which you have given us, and for this opportunity to dedicate the Johnson Public Library. Dear God, we ask your blessing upon us today, and we pray that this building will be used for decades to come, shaping people of all ages, whether they be young or old. Dear God, we are especially thankful that you have bestowed your generous spirit upon the Johnsons, and we give thanks for all people who had a hand in the construction of our beautiful building. Dear God, most of all, we are thankful that you love us so much that you sent your Son, Jesus Christ. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
This library would not be possible here today without vision. And I say this in the fact that the vision, I've had the opportunity to serve on the library board for 10 years. By virtue of my job here in town, which I work at the school, I get an automatic place on the library board. And it's been very interesting. But I remember the first time I heard about a new library. And the new library was a vision by a person who had worked very hard in the library for a number of years. And we felt it only fitting that this person be a part of our program here today. So we've asked Marion Howard, the past library director of the Darlington Public Library, if she would give us her part of the dedication of this library today. So Marion, would you please come forward?
Thank you. Today I feel a little like Moses. I've seen the promised land, but I wasn't allowed to go there. But it's wonderful. When Denny called to confirm my spot on the program, he asked me, could you do something with your machine? Well, I assumed he meant the auto harp, and the thought went through my mind that a person of his education and position should really know auto harp. But I decided not to mention it. And I said, well, yes, I'd be glad to, but you know, after all these years, I don't know one library song. I know a lot of church songs, and I know a lot of Cornish songs, and I know Grandma's Feather Bed and that type of thing. And I know a song about a female highwayman, and I know a really nifty song about the Scotsman's kilt, but not today. But I don't know one library song. Oh, he said, that's all right. Maybe you could do the song you wrote about Darlington. And I said, well, yeah, it's been a while. A lot of people have heard it, but a lot of people haven't. And I haven't done it for quite a while, so I can do that one. About 4 years ago, when Darlington was applying for entrance into the Main Street program, one of the requirements of the application process was to do a presentation before a panel of judges. It was my privilege to be a part of that group, and as we met to work out what sort of presentation we were going to do, I was asked, well, actually, I was ordered to go home and write a song. Sure. Well, I stole the tune, but I did write the words. So here's the Darlington song as done for the judges, plus 2 more verses that I wrote following acceptance into the Main Street program. We come from the southwestern part of the state, from Lafayette County, historic and great. Our town, it is Darlington, pretty and small. We think it's the best place to live of them all. Our river flows through in the middle of town. Folks have long paddled it upstream and down. Now most of the time it runs gentle and slow. Once in a while it really lets go. Now when the old peck goes on the rampage, there's some of us wish we could catch the next stage. Folks scurry around to get out of its way, but we all know the sun will be shining for ourselves and our children and all of our friends. 1917 saw one heck of a flame. A traveling show troupe was given the blame. 18 businesses went up in smoke. Thank God no one died, but it was no joke. Our main street is wide, it's a beauty to spy, as truly American as fresh apple pie. A New England-type village from the wilderness grew. Misters Keith and Lind, we do thank you. Our story is ended, we hope you'll approve and help us to keep our main street on the move. There's much more that makes our town special to us. We don't have time to get into such fuss. Our story continues, I'm happy to say. Main Street will get better with each passing day. We thank the good people bestowing their trust, and we'll do our best to deserve it or bust. So now if you're out about driving along, please come see the town that's the heart of this song. Our shopping is great, some dollars you'll save. If you've no time to stop, you can smile and wave. Thank you. I'm going to do one more song. And don't worry, Danny, I timed it and I won't run over. It's a contemporary folk song written by Greg Brown, who lives in a small town in northwest Iowa. I fudged a little with the words to suit my purpose, but it's his song. It's called All the Good People. And really that's what today is all about, is it not? Good people. People like Irvin and Phyllis and all the others whose names you can read on the handout and on the bricks over in front of the library, that help to make this dream of a library become a reality. One of the particular blessings of living in a small town is that you get to know a lot of people. And despite the disappointments and frustrations that are a part of life, there are a lot of good people. And in a small town, it's your privilege to be able to count these people not only as good people, but more importantly, as friends. All the good people. This is a song for all the good people, all the good people who've touched up my life. This is a song for all the good people, people I'm thanking my stars for tonight. This is a song I sing for my buddies, buddies who've seen me through good and through bad. We've laughed and we've grumbled, sometimes been humbled, each knowing the other's a good friend to have. This is a song I sing for my fella, for the good fella that puts up with me, my rambling, my roaming, my late coming home. He is the sunlight that shines down on me. This is a song for all the good people, all the good people who've touched up my life. This is a song for all the good
I'm happy to report, Marion, you're right on time. In order to put a building like we have together, it requires some very important people, and that would be our architect and the manager of the building and the construction of the building. Next, I'd like to present to you from Verbacher's and Associates, Stefan Kroon, who has served as the architect of the building, and from Advanced Building Corporation, Dennis Cash, who has been the project manager. They will present the keys then to Mayor Bob Siegenthaler, and in turn, the mayor will present them to Carol McDaniels, our director of our library, and each one will say a few words. So first of all, Stefan and Dennis.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'm not going to sing for you, and you'll probably thank me for that if you ever would give consideration to listening to me. I do want to recognize that in a project like this, there are a lot of people involved. I represent the architect, but it's more than just one person. It's a whole team. Before this project started with our firm, there was a lot of legwork that was done here in town by the library board members, by the Johnsons, and all of their affiliates that put this thing together and set the foundation for the project. And then we came on board to help them put the thing together and to describe the project and define what it should be. Our firm, Janos Loxton, is our is the architecture department manager. We had a number of other staff members involved in our firm, and I'd like to just make sure that they're recognized as such. We also had several consultants that worked with us on structural and mechanical systems from Arnold and O'Sheridan in Madison, and I'd like to thank all of them for their participation and help in putting this project together. Through it all, there was a lot of decisions to be made. There was a lot of input from all of the members of the board and the Johnsons themselves. There were a lot of comments that were thrown out as being a good idea initially, and then it just didn't fit in, or it couldn't fit the budget, or whatever the reason might be. We had to willow out the important decisions and the right decisions to put the project together as best we could. A lot of the decisions came from the Johnsons themselves directly. Irvin and Phyllis had a great hand in defining this building and describing what it should look like. And although there was a team of architects and engineers and designers that put the plans together, the Phyllises and the library board are really the people that designed this building for your community and for all of you to enjoy. And I would like to thank all of them and congratulate all of them. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dennis Cash, and I was the project superintendent for Advanced Building Corp. And so on behalf of Advanced Building Corp, I'd like to thank Phyllis and Irv and Carol in the city of Darlington for letting Advanced Building Corp be a part of your new library in the building. And I'd also like to thank all the subcontractors. There were a number of subcontractors from the area that did work on the building, and I appreciated all their help and their diligence in getting the building completed, and it turned out to be a pretty nice building, so I really want to thank them. And also, I had a pretty good time working with Phyllis and Irv and Carol and some of the other people that did come by the library and talked and looked around. And other than that, I guess that's really all I have to say, so thank you. At this time, I have the keys, and I'm going to present them to the mayor.
Thank you. As mayor of the city of Darlington, it is a great pleasure that I accept the keys of the New Johnson Public Library. Today, we bid a fond farewell to the Carnegie Library, a library that served us well for several generations. We say our final thank you for its years of service to the citizens of Darlington and Lafayette County. We are grateful that the Lafayette County Historical Society has purchased the building, and it will continue to be an important part of our heritage. Many years ago, Marion Howard, who was the head librarian at the time, planted the seeds of need for the new library. And due to the need of more space and ease of accessibility for elderly and handicapped. Today we say a fond hello to the New Johnson Public Library and a fond thank you to Urban and Phyllis Johnson. Because of the generosity of Urban and Phyllis, we, the people of Darlington and the surrounding area, have a state-of-the-art library for use by all ages and from youngest to the oldest. Had it not been for the Johnsons and their generosity, we would not be sitting here today dedicating a new library. We also thank Verbecker and Associates, ABC Construction, and all the subcontractors that served us well. Then we're involved in creating a fantastic building that you will tour later today after the dedication services. Urban Johnson, like many of us here today, was born and raised on a farm. He grew up on South Wayne, Wisconsin. When he was growing up and ready to go off to college, milk was selling for 60 cents a hundred. There was no extra money, so Urban worked his way through college, and I am told he even sent $5 home to his parents to help them out. This experience has made Urban always known the value of earning and sharing his money with others. After graduation from the University of Wisconsin Law School, Urban returned to Lafayette County and began what became a very successful career as an attorney in Darlington, where he continues to practice law today. Because his roots were in farming, as time went on, Urban began buying dairy farms in Lafayette County. He became a champion of soil conservation and rented his farms out to many young farmers who could muster with Urban if they were up and milking by 5 a.m. Urban had always been a community-minded person. Back in the late 40s, he drew up the Articles of Corporation for Memorial Hospital of Lafayette County. He served on a hospital board for over 25 years. Urban also served on the Darlington School Board and was board president at the time of all the outlying districts consolidated into one large one. At the time Lafayette County Manor was constructed, Urban developed and paid for landscaping the grounds, which covers the entire city block. In 1995, Urban, feeling the need of a new library in Darlington, began donating money to the library building fund. To date, the money he donated to the library, along with interest on it, has amounted to approximately $1,250,000. These very generous gifts have paid for the new library and a major portion of the furnishings. There is a plaque in the library denoting gifts and contributions by the Johnsons and many others. Urban and Phyllis have both worked countless hours on this project, along with head librarian Carol McDaniel, children's librarian Janice Slappy, and all other librarians. Former library board president Hazel Stavager, present library board president Dennis Pratt, and all other library board members. The Darlington City Council and the many, many others who have made this library building possible. Phyllis did a wonderful job, as you will notice when you enter the interior decorating of the new library. As you enter the library today, you will notice engraved bricks with the names and past and present members of our community whose family contributed $100 for each brick, and the $100 made over $15,000 to raise money for the library. We thank everyone who helped with the library project with monetary and material gifts that help enhance the use and beautification of the library, and a big thank you to those of you who gave the gift of time spent working on the library and helping with the human change, moving books from the old library to the new. In addition to the construction of the Johnson Public Library, the Johnsons have given the city of Darlington $50,000 to pay for half the new ambulance for Darlington EMS. Donated $5,000 to the Darlington Fire Department, $12,000 to the Darlington Daycare Center, $23,000 to the Lafayette County Historical Society, and thousands of scholarships to scholarships and high school graduates all across Lafayette County for continuing their education. The City of Darlington is indeed grateful for gifts great and small. Thanks to everyone who has contributed to the enrichment of lives for young and old for many, many years to come. Thank you, Irvin and Phyllis, and thank you all for coming and joining our celebration. Those seeds planted a few years ago by Marion, the librarian, has grown well and will be now harvesting fruits of our labor. Thank you, Irvin and Phyllis, for your love of this community and the gift of knowledge for generations to come. It's a good feeling to finish a job well done. Today we turn a dream into reality, proving that dreams really do come true. Thank you. Thanks, Carol and Irvin. I want to give Carol the keys for the library and hope she takes good care of it and works hard, real hard. And the City of Darlington wants to present you with a gift certificate, Irvin and Phyllis, so you can, it's hard to buy you a gift, to be honest with you. What do you have you don't need? So you're welcome to go down and pick out something. Thank you.
It is my pleasure as the acting director of the Johnson Public Library to accept these keys from the mayor of Darlington. Few communities have the privilege of building a new library, especially one as unique and elegant as this one. Many people have contributed their time and money to ensure that the Johnson Library reached expectations. Over the past 11 months, I have worked closely with the mayor, Irvin and Phyllis, the library board, and the city council members during the process of selecting the many items for the inside and outside of the library. It has been a pleasure to work with architect Stephen Kroon and Advanced Building Corporation project manager Dennis Cash, and the many subcontractors involved with the process of creating a library that is now a focal point for the community of Darlington. I would like to take a few minutes to share with you the behind the scenes of this project and the people who have made it happen. Often while the construction was going on, I was taken away from the library for meetings, consultations, buying trips. During these times, I depended on the library staff to carry on with running the library. I appreciate how they cheerfully covered for me when I was away. I would like to introduce the staff of the Johnson Public Library to you. Would you stand when I say your names, please? Children's Librarian Janice Schlappy. And we'll give her a little. And library aides, Marilyn Kenyon. Della Clayton. Kathy Zuberbuehler. Margaret Hardiman. And genealogist Jan Reineck. Joan Thompson isn't with us today. Thank you. Moving a library is no simple task. Janitor Sue Torstensen and the city crew came to my rescue many times during the moving process. How many times did you guys move those book stacks for me anyway? Stephen Kroon designed the Johnson Library. His excellent architectural abilities and creativity are evident. From the vaulted ceiling to the children's theater, he has put forth every effort to design a special library, and that it is. Dennis Cash oversaw and managed the building of the library. He knows where every nail, stud, and beam is located. He often made trips to Darlington on his days off to ensure that every detail was attended to. And even the many change orders that came through, he managed to have the library completed in 9 months. Dennis Pratt, Library Board President, and Library Board gave of their free time to many meetings they attended. Whenever they were needed for anything, they were there. They are a fine example of leadership in our community. Thank you. Phyllis Johnson offered her decorating talents to give the interior of the library an elegant as well as comfortable feeling. Her ability to visualize and coordinate furnishings and accessories are evident in the final appearance of the library. Thank you, Phyllis. And we had some very good times together. Irvin Johnson visited the building site every day from beginning to end of the project. I barely knew Irvin when the project started, but as it progressed, I became acquainted with a man of a warm and generous nature. Irvin loves to talk about the days of his youth, when life was a challenge but rewarding. The stories he tells comes from his heart. It has been a pleasure getting to know Irvin Johnson. And Mayor Bob Siegenthaler worked closely with everyone involved with the building of the library. When things became complicated, we knew we could turn to the mayor to work things out. Trustworthy and a man of his word, he always keeps the interest of the community foremost in his mind. Darlington is fortunate to have Robert Siegenthaler as its mayor. And last but not least, I would like to recognize and thank my husband John and my family for the many, many things that they did along the way to help me and support me. When you tour the Johnson Public Library, you will be witnessing the efforts of many people in the community who have worked together toward a common goal. I have watched as people laughed, enjoyed, and bonded. The real pleasure of building a library is in the people who build it. Memories of these special times are what lingers long after the last nail has been driven. With the special gift from the Johnsons and contributions from many others, we have had the opportunity to build a library. Thank you.
As Carol stated at the end of her visit with us here this afternoon, history is very important, and our library, from the Carnegie Library, I believe, that was built for almost $10,500 back in the early 1900s, to this beautiful library which we have here this afternoon. There's a lot of history during that time. We're preparing for the future, and in order to do that, we're going to install a time capsule in the library wall behind the date stone. And at this time, I'd like to call upon someone who has worked very hard at this library, its building, and all the time that it took before we got to this point, and that is Hazel Stoffaker. Hazel has served in the past as the president of our library board. She is very, very important to our community and has spent a lot of time. We've asked Hazel if she would tell you this afternoon what we're going to be putting in the date stone box. Some of the history is being made right here today as we're taking a videotape of this program, and we've started it from the groundbreaking to here we are today. Hazel has put together a lot of different things, and I'd like her to share with you at this time what those things are. As she comes up here, I'll show you the box that we're going to put it in that will go behind the date stone in the library. Mrs. Stoffaker. This is the box that will be enclosed in behind the date stone, will be sealed, Carol tells me she has a special glue to seal it, with the idea that maybe someday, maybe 50 years from now, you might be open to see what's in there.
Thank you, Denny. After the date of the dedication was set, Denny asked me if I would be responsible for what went in the box, and I said yes without really having any idea of what I was supposed to do. And before I say any more, I want to thank Della Pratt and Carol, who worked with me all the way on this project. We talked about it, and we did think that if they would open the box in 50 years, it would be more interesting than leaving it in there forever. I don't really know what they do. I've never seen one open. But anyhow, that was our thought. And with that thought in mind, we decided we would put things in the box that would be of interest to people 50 years from now, so they would know what Darlington was like in the year 2000. And I wanted to write the story of the creating of the Johnson Public Library, and it has been quite a story. It started in the fall of 1997 when Mr. Johnson told Mayor Bob Siegenthaler and me that he and Phyllis were willing to give up to $1 million to remodel the old library. And I probably shouldn't, but Irv didn't feel a bit well that night, and Bob and I were very scared. But he's an amazing person, I can tell you that. Then in May of 1998, we visited the new library at Reedsburg, Wisconsin. And from that time on, all we could think of was in terms of building a new library. And about that time, the press became interested in our project. So actually, the rest of the story is being told with newspaper clippings. I have put those into a scrapbook, and the scrapbook will remain at the library, although a copy of everything will go into the, what do we call it? The artifacts receptacle. And the reason that it's called that instead of the cornerstone is because it's in behind the pillars in front, so it isn't a cornerstone. Now, Denny calls it a date stone, so maybe it's going to have a date on it. I don't know about that. And I did not bring the articles today because the final chapter of my book will be the stories and pictures of today's dedication. We also have a video that has been made of the library and all the furnishings, and there will be the video from today. I think that we've set the date of April 10th to finalize and put everything in the box and to seal it up. The other things that are going in are newspapers and newspaper clippings. We've got about the stock market, about the styles people are wearing, about the price of gasoline, about world affairs. We're putting in a Darlington telephone book. We're putting in a copy of the car models. It's just from a car dealer, but it shows all the models. Did I say a telephone book? Well, anyhow, yesterday, Della and I went through the Darlington telephone book and listed all the businesses. We came up with 134 businesses, and 11 of those were beauty parlors and barbershops. So as Della said, we might not be good looking, but we're sure trying.
How about the price of milk?
No, I think there'll be plenty about the farm economy in there because I'm kind of like Irv, I depend on the price of milk too. So from these facts, I think you will all agree that Darlington is alive and well. And with that thought in mind, we dedicate the articles that will go into the box with the hope that the future holds even better things for this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. Next, I'd like to introduce to you who's with us this afternoon. Senator Dale Schultz is here. He's in the back. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. And Representative Steve Freese, who represents our district in our assembly in Madison, and I'd like to call upon him for a few words.
Thank you very much. And I first want to start out by thanking you all for coming this afternoon to a very wonderful celebration in the city of Darlington. It has amazed me in a community where people often tell me, well, nothing's happening in Darlington. It's just not as good of a town as it could be. If we just had something happen for the city, things would really start to grow. And little do you realize, things are really underway. When I was here for the dedication of the new school, I was stunned by the fact that the entire school was filled. Now, I've participated in a lot of dedication ceremonies, never to have the kind of crowd that you have here. You should be very proud of yourself by the fact that this city is on the go. Things are happening for your community, even though you may not realize it every day because you live in such a great community. Quality of life is what people are looking for to raise their family and their children in. And you have that here. And little do you realize that is one of the best kept secrets in southwestern Wisconsin. I also want to thank Irvin and Phyllis for the special friendship they have shown to me in the entire time that I've been in the legislature, and asking me to be part of this program today. I think it was a little over a month and a half ago, I think, when Irvin and Phyllis both called to see if my schedule would be available for me to come. And then about once a week I got a call to make sure that I still was going to be here. And, including Friday morning. Of course, Thursday, we started in the legislature at 9:30 in the morning, and we concluded at 3:15 the following morning, Friday morning. And so I drove home. I got home about 4:30, and Irv called promptly at 7:30 to make sure I was still going to be here, which is okay. So I had the opportunity then to chat with him a little bit, although I don't remember most of the conversation. We did talk about that he would like me to come down, and he'd like to show me what they had put together for this community. And so yesterday morning I had the privilege with Carol and Irv to give me a private tour with my two kids, and we went through the library. And it is a magnificent building. And you can see the keen interest and dedication that was put into and all the thoughts behind this, both by Irvin Phyllis and the library board and the city council, to have this type of building. And you know, you are very privileged, I believe, to have such a dedicated community spirit here. You know, Irvin Phyllis came really from fairly humble beginnings. Were very successful through a good law practice and, I think, wise investments. And that could have stopped there. But instead, they decided to share their generosity with this community that they made their success in. And to have that kind of contribution is just phenomenal. It really is great that so many of you bought bricks. People donated computers. There's artwork. There's things on loan in the library that you will not see in any other library in Wisconsin. We have 381 public libraries located in 450 locations in Wisconsin. And I don't think you will find one that is more special than the one that you will see this afternoon when you have that opportunity to tour. I will tell you, Phyllis, you did an unbelievably good job in picking out all of the, Carol was there too, I know, but I can tell by the selection of furnishings, the selection of wainscoting, all the special things that you could have just ignored and not done. I doubt that you will find in many modern libraries hardwood floors and oriental rugs and just absolutely stunning material and selection and quality, and you did a great job. And because of that, I suspect that you're going to have significantly more people visiting the public library, not only to use the computers, but also to sit around in front of the fireplace and read and have a comfortable atmosphere. And it really is a wonderful atmosphere that is there. Wisconsin residents visit the library throughout the course of the year 27 million times. They check out 47 million books, videos, magazines, and other items. Children programs that are operated for public libraries have a little over 1 million children visit the library. Now, you have all of those in this library, and I think it is in the children's part of the library with a theater area for the kids to do storytelling time, and all of that is just so well thought out that I think we will see a substantial use increase once people know really what is there. And it probably won't be limited just to people who live in the city of Darlington. And that really is the great treasure. While it falls upon those who contributed in the city to support the library, many people will have an opportunity to use it who don't have a financial stake in that. So Senator Schultz and I have really tried through state legislation to recognize how we can help. One of the components that we did this last year in the state budget was to provide $2.5 million from the Telecommunications Fund for access for BadgerLink. Via BadgerLink, Wisconsin citizens can gain access to the internet to some 5,000 magazines, journals, newspapers, whether it's from their home, from their business, or right in their own library. It will give you an unbelievable access to the world in a very beautiful building. Senator Schultz and I, you did need two politicians on the schedule today, but I know that he wanted to join with us to recognize the tremendous gift that this community has been given, not only in the generosity of Irvin and Phyllis, but everyone else who helped make this a huge and complete success. So in closing, we just want to thank you for allowing us to participate, for your special friendship that you have given us, and for the great contribution you have given to this community. And don't let anyone ever tell you that Darlington's not on the move, because it clearly is the pearl on the Pecatonica. It is an absolutely beautiful community to raise a family. And with this new library opening up, it will even be a greater place for our kids to learn. And Senator Schultz and I would like to present, as we do at public dedications of libraries, a book to the library. This is A Pocket History of the United States of America by Alan Nevins, Henry Steele, and Jeffrey Morris. And so, Carol, if you would come up, Senator Schultz and I would like to present a book so that this will give an opportunity for some child to read. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
The Darlington Library, the Johnson Public Library, now is part of the Southwest Library System. And that means that we have an exchange program within the southwestern part of the state that we use, the headquarters being in Fenimore. Walter Burkholder is the director of the Southwest Library System, called Carol this morning, and indicated he was ill and would not be able to be here, but they have been very supportive of our program in our new library. The library also comes under the auspices of the Department of Public Instruction in the state of Wisconsin. And here representing the Department of Public Instruction this afternoon is Alan Zimmerman. We ask that he come forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon. On behalf of State Superintendent John Benson and the Department of Public Instruction, I would like to congratulate the citizens of Darlington on the dedication of the new Johnson Public Library building. I would also like to extend greetings and congratulations on behalf of Cal Potter and the staff of the Division of Libraries, Technology, and Community Learning. We're all extremely pleased to see the opening of this new building. Good library services require a combination of a good staff, which you have, a well-selected and maintained collection, and an attractive, functional library building. The new Johnson Public Library building will result in better library service to the residents of Darlington and the surrounding area. No library in Wisconsin, as you've heard, exists alone. The Johnson Public Library will be a member of the Southwest Wisconsin Library System, and that system will be responsible for backing up your library and providing for your library needs. Public library systems reflect the state of Wisconsin's commitment to quality public library service to all state residents. The library board, the library staff, and the entire Darlington community can be proud of the effort required to bring about this new facility. This building, of course, would not have been possible without the generosity of Mr. Irvin Johnson. Mr. Johnson continues a strong tradition in Wisconsin in which individuals have made lasting contributions to their communities by making gifts to their local public library. And as we've heard from other speakers, this gift is to the whole community, whether they're young or just beginning reading or in retirement and just looking for a good book to read. As a father of two teenage boys, when mother was asked what a new library building meant to her, she replied, well, when my daughter tells me she's going to the library, it would really be nice to think that's where she's going. And that's the way I feel about it. It's really nice to have a nice facility that all the people of the community are going to feel comfortable at. Thank you for inviting me for the celebration today. I was at the groundbreaking several months ago. The division staff and the department look forward to working with Carol and the library board in the future to provide the best possible service that we can for the Darlington residents. Thank you.
The Johnsons have been very generous in many different ways, not only here in Darlington, but also at Luther College in Decorah, Iowa. And at this time, I'd like to call upon David Roseland, Vice President of Luther College.
Certainly a very special privilege and pleasure for Luther to be invited to have a part of this program today. Irvin and Phyllis have been very instrumental philanthropists at Luther. It's not the purpose of today's meeting to go into that in any detail. They've been special friends of the college since their son Jim attended and graduated from Luther. I have to always remember to say Jim because your mom calls you Jimmy all the time when we get together. As we were driving here today, 2.5 hours it turns, we came through many communities, some a little larger than Darlington, some smaller, and I always wondered, does this town have a new library? Is there an Irvin and Phyllis Johnson in this town? And I fear the answer almost every time was no. There's no new library in this city, and there's no Irvin and Phyllis Johnson here. And we must give, I think, special tribute to this vision that they have had along with others in this community. So many of you are relatives of Irvin and Phyllis, and we never go into Phyllis's kitchen without getting into her genealogy books. And I feel like for many of you, if you kind of gave me a little history of where you're from and who you're related to, I could know something about you, although I wouldn't know your name or face or be able to put them together. And with all due respect to all of the relatives of the Johnsons who are here today, I would say that my very favorite relative is Snowshoe Thompson. And if you have never had Phyllis tell you about Snowshoe Thompson, you ought to do that. It's a very wonderful evening of entertainment. The great hallmark of democracy in America is an educated and an informed people. Few democracies, I think, throughout the world are able to survive unless the citizenship is educated. Formal education for all of us plays an important role, from elementary to intermediate to high school to college and university. It's a key role to be sure, but more important than that even is what we call lifelong learning. The outcome of formal education is not just about knowledge, which is outdated in a few years, but learning, in fact, how to learn, to develop a love of learning which lasts each and every one of us through a lifetime. Libraries are a key link to this learning. From the Library of Congress and the New York City Library, the largest libraries in the world, to the thousands of libraries across this land, they all function as a key link for those of us in communities to provide the service for democracy, for citizenship, for community pride, and for that lifelong love of learning that's so important to each of us. We rejoice today in this new library, and we enjoy it. The people of Darlington have something very special, and it looks like so many have helped to make it so. And I hope each and every one of you whose names appear on this list as individuals or as firms feel very good about your gifts and what you have contributed to make this community a better place to live, to grow, to learn, and to be inspired by the great writings that we find in a library. Special thanks to Irvin and Phyllis for their vision and their inspiration, and for the lifetime of hard work. And I trust the librarians don't have to start at 5 a.m. A little, not quite. But for a lifetime of hard work, of wise investing and careful spending, which allow them to give something so special to this community. I know that they rejoice in this fine library as much or more than all who will benefit from it. Irvin and Phyllis are role models for all of us, and while we may fall short of the high standards they set, we rejoice with them and thank them for all the special gifts of time and talent and treasure they give to this community and its people and to so many others. Thanks so much.
The family has been very supportive of the Johnsons in the development of this library, the one we see here today. I'd like to call upon Jim and Susan, if you would like to say a few words. You're speaking, okay?
I'll be real brief here. I just want to thank all the friends and family and everybody else in the city for coming. And I think you've got a beautiful, beautiful library. And I'm so proud of my folks.
Well, I won't be quite so brief because I've got a bit of a politician in me from a few years ago. But I as well want to thank you all for coming. One of my daughters, it's a pleasure actually to have both my daughters here with me because they were born and raised in the Darlington area before we moved out. And it's quite frankly through their love of learning and reading that they now have graduated from institutions of fine learning and have quite fine jobs and have turned into quite some women in their own right. But one of them whispered to me just as we sat down, she recognized the past library director, and when Marion was speaking, she said, Dad, she's funnier than she used to be. so, I'm not going to tell you which one it was, Marion, but and I believe the other one indicated to me that it's quite possible that they still have some overdue book fines. So I would beseech you, Dennis, as president of the board, if there is such a thing still around and you haven't lost it, put it in this box or send it to them because they have quite good jobs. David, it's a pleasure to have you here from Luther College. It's where I went to school and graduated. Probably not one of the largest users of the library in Luther. But truly, it's an interesting thing now to see the library because we have brought the digital age together with our traditional books and videos and learning. Now many of us use the internet to do research. We use traditional books to expand our minds, both humanly and spiritually. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And Dad, Mom, you never cease to amaze me either. I think as well as this community, you know what a fine set of parents Susan and I are fortunate enough to have, but you as well. And I also want to thank all the rest of you in the community that have passed books, have done everything that you possibly could, donated your time and your efforts, because these are the things that make a community. I have fond memories of living in Darlington and being around you, and I look forward later today of being able to shake hands with those of you that I haven't seen for quite some number of years. And with that, I thank you all, and I wish you all the very best in the coming years with your library and your community.
The general public here in Darlington is also very appreciative of the Johnsons and their contributions to our community. And at this time, I'd like to call upon Sandy Reichling, who would like to make a presentation to the Johnsons.
I wasn't on the agenda because I wanted this to be a total surprise. We have a very special presentation for you, Irv and Phyllis. But first, I would like to thank some people who worked with me to make this possible. Ruth Hirschberner, who is gifted, is a real ability to make words come alive. Rose Rasmussen for all of her outstanding efforts, and Jackie Roof for being my special shopper. Thank you to all of the Dewey area and block chairmen who collected signatures and thank you notes. Today is a momentous occasion for the city of Darlington. Today we have the opportunity to thank Irv and Phyllis for their generous gift to all of us. For all sad words of tongue and pen, the saddest are these: it might have been. You, Irv and Phyllis, have made it happen. I am delighted I can be here in person to thank you as a representative of the people of Darlington and the surrounding area. I present to you an accumulation of signatures and thank yous from the citizens of the community. In Proverbs it says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." Irv and Phyllis, you had a vision of a new library in Darlington for people of all ages. With you, Phyllis, as the interior decorator, and Irv as the general contractor, that vision became a reality. With your nurturing, the library stands today as a foundation for the thirst for truth. Thanks for your generosity, Irv and Phyllis. The opportunities, uncountable, are there to make the quest for knowledge always possible. To two great human beings, Irv and Phyllis Johnson, we the people, thank you.
Would you stay right here? You and Irv stand right next to the boss. Recognition of the Johnsons. I believe that my first impression of Irv, when I first got to know him when I came to town 10 years ago, I was to a National Honor Society meeting, at which time he always presents to our National Honor Society seniors a scholarship for them being in the National Honor Society. I remember the story he told about instructing the young ladies in his office that we have paper towels, and he put up a piece of binder stern, and so they should hang up their paper. When they're done, they can use it again. And I've learned to know Irving and Phyllis so much better now, and working with them as we planned and finally have this library. So on behalf of the library board, we would like to present to the Johnsons a little memento for their contribution, and this is a plaque that we would like to present to them. It says Johnson Public Library, City of Darlington, in appreciation to Irvin W. and Phyllis Johnson for their financial backing of our library, dedicated April 2nd, the year 2000. So thank you very much. It's indeed been a pleasure. Thank you. There you go. That's heavy. I know you are. I know. Okay. We would also like to take this opportunity to recognize some other people who have been big contributors to this. I'm going to ask Carol if she would step to the back table here. We have a little memento for a number of people who have helped in different ways. First of all, to members of our city council, and if they are here, if they would please come forward to pick this up. Mayor Bob Sigenthaler, first of all. And members of our city council then, Dave Golf, Bev Anderson, Ralph Whalen, please come forward. Jim Burke, Tony Fink, Bob Munson serves on the city council and also serves on the library board. City Attorney Bill McDaniels, and City Clerk Phil Rizou. To the library board, which they put up with me every month. Sometimes if we got a lot going, we get through those meetings pretty fast. Steve Fitzsimons, who serves as the vice president of the library board. Mary Jo Erickson, who serves as the secretary. Jim Torselson, Mamie Smith, and Kay Bausch. Kay Bausch could not be with us today, but Kay is also a member of our library board. And to the people that keep it going, first of all, our librarian, Carol McDaniels. Janice Slappy, Marilyn Kenyon, would you please come forward? Della Clayton, Joan Thompson could not be here, Kathy Zuberbuehler, and our historian, Jan Reinke. And of course, Irving and Phyllis Johnson, would you? Oh, Carol's delivering. How about that? Okay. To Jim Johnson, to Susan Johnson. To Dennis Cook for Advanced Building Association, our builders, and Verbacher's Association, Stefan. To our past leader, Hazel Stoffaker. To our past librarian, Marion Howard. And to a lady who we don't see because she works awful early in the morning. And that's the lady that keeps the place vacuumed and cleaned up, and that's Sue Torselson. So if Sue is here, oh, she's way up there, okay. As you've heard previously, Irving has been very, very instrumental in providing money for young people going on to school. As the superintendent of schools in this school district, and for the number of school districts in Lafayette County, he has provided, come on Sue, get down here and get that. He has provided many opportunities for young people to further their education. He's been doing this since 1979. Every year he has presented, as I said earlier, scholarships to members of the National Honor Society at Darlington High School, and then at our Senior Honors Day has also presented additional scholarships for young people going on to school. Education is a big part of the Johnsons, and this library only proves that they believe 100% in what education stands for. I believe in that. I hope we all do. But once again, Irving, thank you very much for your contribution to this library and to all the young people that you have supported in our community. Now, you have the opportunity to hear from the boss, Irving Johnson.
Thank you, Dennis. After hearing the fine program, I think I could probably serve you best by just bowing and sitting down. I was going to get my hair colored the other day to make it match my flower, but said Dennis got in ahead of me to have his hair fixed. So. I know Phyllis and I appreciate everybody that's come here today. It's very gratifying to see you folks. I see my good friends from the Historic Cheesemaking Organization in Monroe, and I appreciate very much their coming here today. It means a lot to me. We're especially proud to have Susan and Jim with us today and for their kind remarks. And of course, we couldn't have gone forward without the two granddaughters. And I want Andrea and Krista to just stand up and take a bow. They both came here from California, and Andrea has to be back to work in the morning. She's leaving later on this afternoon. We're grateful for all of the other speakers here. I had thank yous for all of them, but in view of the time, I think I'll just say thanks to everyone who's taken part in this program today. And thank you to all of the general contractor, to all of the subcontractors, and everybody else who has worked with us in seeing this to completion. I especially want to add my thanks to the thanks of other people on the program for what my wife Phyllis did in connection with the building and the furnishing of the library. I think the only question that I have asked me is, why in the world didn't you put Phyllis's picture over the mantle? And that's kind of hard to answer. It was her decision. Susan and Jim, Carol and I both encouraged her to have her picture there, but she chose otherwise. You will, however, find our picture in the historical room of the library. Maybe someday we'll change in pictures and put hers up and over the mantle. She worked very hard, long and hard with Carol in choosing so many things. The color of the woodwork, the color of the walls, the chandeliers, the rugs, all of the chairs and tables and everything that is in the library. She and Carol worked together, and I think they did a good job. Of course, I'd like to claim some of the credit, because I went with them quite a little. Carol really has, besides her work as a librarian, she had charge of transferring the materials over to the new library, and she overseen together with Dennis, the contract engineer, the two of them. I know that they looked upon that building, they couldn't have had more interest if it had been their building, because they wanted it complete and well done in every respect, and I sure appreciate what they did together. I saw them working after most of the project was done over in the vicinity of the drive-in. I was a little curious as to what was going on. You know, Carol she's either state or national head of the Bluebirds, and I thought maybe she was having Dennis fix a room for the Bluebirds to come in. But anyway, they did a good job. I do have a lot of thank yous here. Dick Anderson, of course, if you go in the front door and you see this statue, we call it Mr. Reed. This carving that he made of the man has books under his arm and between his legs. I think it's very fitting. He's put that on permanent loan to the library, and sure glad that it ended up in our library. It really enhances the whole project. He did a lot of other work around the library too, and helping finish things up. I probably won't mention but all of the subcontractors really did a good job, and I'd like to mention them, but for fear I'd leave somebody out, I guess I'll just say thank you for all of you folks. Dr. Newman and Jim Sinclair, they went out of their way in making substantial donation in connection with the drive-up and other articles in the library, and we appreciate them for that. When we were thinking of going ahead with this library project, it crossed my mind as to whether in this day of computers and internet and all the like, as to whether there would always be a need for libraries. I talked with Carol and also talked with Marion and other librarians throughout the country. Karen Davidson of Pella, Iowa, who's put her whole life in on libraries. Without exception, they assured me that libraries would always be an important cog in every community that would serve a real worthwhile purpose. So we decided to go ahead with this project. And as perhaps has been noted, I'm somewhat of a thrifty person. It's hard for me to part with money. Who was it? Was it Carol or the mayor? Somebody said that I looked kind of ill the night that I said I'd give the money. Well, it was probably just because I hated to part with the money. But when we decided to go ahead with it, we wanted to have the best building that could be built. We wanted it functional. We wanted a building that would stand for many years and one that required very little upkeep. And we wanted it uncommonly beautiful. I hope we've attained that goal. When you take a look, you folks will be the judge. One other thought I had in mind. You know, in this country, during my lifetime, we've made great strides in technology through whether it's transportation, manufacturing, and I know, of course, a lot about farming, or I claim to know a lot about farming. When I think back as a youngster, we lived from our farm to go to South Wayne. We had to travel along a river bottom. And a large part of the year, there was mud up to the hubs of the wagons. Our cars we jacked up in the wintertime and didn't use them. But when you think now what transportation is, these large highways, and we can go across the nation. We think about farming, about milking cows, starting with the milking by hand, taking the milk night and morning to the factory. We had a factory about every mile and a half, because that's about as far as the farmer after milking could drive and deliver his milk. Then we had after milking by hand, we had the milk machine, then we had the transfer system, and then we had the pipeline milkers. Now they back up to these large dairies with a tank and take the milk in. So they're in taking care of the grain. We used to cut it with a binder, shock it, oftentimes put it in grain stacks, because the thrash machine sometimes didn't come till fall. Same with the corn. We husked by hand, and then with a corn picker, then the corn sheller, now with high moisture corn. So there's been great strides, not only in farming but everything else. But we've been a little slow in social sciences. When you think of that's human behavior, one to the other. When we think of the mental institutions are full to overflowing, our prisons are full. We haven't made much stride along that line. We still settle our differences internationally by wars. The other night I heard the question asked as to how many wars were going on at the present time. I would have said probably 4 or 5, but I think there's something like 20-some that are going on at the present time. Libraries are temples of learning. Learning has liberated more people than all the wars in our history. The written word has liberated more people than the sword. The written word, and when we think of the written word, we think of libraries. And the written word has liberated more people than all the wars that we've had than the sword. Genuine change does not come from government. Real change comes from ourselves. We cannot legislate social change. It must occur in the minds and hearts of the people. If a nation is to go forward, it is up to the people back home, in our area and in other areas. It is our sincere hope that this library, together with our fine schools and our fine churches, will in some way work to close the gap between the technology progress and progress in human relations. I'd like to recite just 2 or 3 experiences I had in the library. One afternoon I was up at the library and a couple little boys came up, and one of them said, "Thank you for the library." It really startled me because they didn't have any parents that were standing there forcing them to say that. And I thought, and I've been in Janice's section of the library and watch the children. If you have any doubt as to the worth of the library, I think it's worth a trip in there and you'll be convinced. The children seem so much brighter than we were when we were kids. I think those folks that are just 4, 5, 6 years old have more sense than we did when we were much older. Another day, Carol said a little boy went out of the library and he came back and he said, "I really like those doors." And then a little girl came out of the ladies' room on another occasion and she said, "That's the most beautiful bathroom I've ever seen." And one more thing, one little boy said to Janice Slappy, she's the head of the children's library, said, "Where's your cot? Where you sleep at night?" And she said, "Well, I go home." He said, "Well, you could just as well stay here." So those are fun things. Darlington has been our home since 1941. Its people and those of the surrounding area have always been very kind to us. Through the years, I've had the privilege of take care of the legal matters for a great many people. This is one of the reasons I like to go to the office every day to renew that acquaintance with families that I have served probably 3 and 4 generations. We have received many heartwarming expressions of gratitude for those that we've given scholarships and those that we've given National Honor Awards, and now the library. This library is a token of our appreciation for these acts of kindness. It is our sincere hope that many generations of young folks and folks of all ages will enjoy and benefit from the use of this library, and that it will enrich the lives of many people. There is a biblical passage found in the 6th chapter of St. Luke, which states, "Give and it shall be given to you, good measure, pressed down and running over." Let me just say, we found this to be true. It has been our real pleasure to enable this library to be built. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Appreciate your words, your thoughts. He's always got a story. If you ever get him in the time to talk, it's really enjoyable to listen to. I've not heard Phyllis's story that was pointed out here today. I'd like to hear that sometime. You don't tell me, though. Okay. This time, I'd like to call on Father Tom Kelly of Holy Rosary Church for the benediction.
Before I ask God's blessings upon our new library, I'd also like to add to all the acknowledgments that have already been given to Phyllis and Irvin, because this new library is not only a gift to the city of Darlington, but it's also a blessing for our school at Holy Rosary, that our children directly benefit from having a school that is so close by, just a block or two away, that they can walk to and check out books from time to time. So we're very grateful for that, and it helps us in our mission to continue to form good children and give them a good foundation. Lord our God, we proclaim your majesty in many and varied ways. You continuously reveal yourself to us, and in the Bible you have handed down your inspired word. Listen to our prayers that all who come to this library in pursuit of the arts and sciences may always be docile to the wisdom of your word. Grant that, imbued with true learning, they will strive to create a more civilized world. We ask this through Christ our Lord. And may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit come upon all of us and remain with us forever. Amen.
Just a couple of things as we close here this afternoon. Immediately following our breaking of this, the library will be open, and you're welcome to certainly come over and look at the library. We have a little memento to give you at the library door if you'd like to stop and pick that up. Also, there is a very nice lunch prepared in the back of the gym here, and you're certainly welcome to stop and suit your fancy as you feel necessary. Once again, on behalf of the Johnsons and the Library Board and the City Council of Darlington, I'd like to thank everybody for their attention here this afternoon. We appreciate you coming and seeing our new building, and to honor the Johnsons who were so great in giving us what we have here today. So thank you for coming, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you, sir.